Welcome to HB Reddit Stories. Today we will see stories of r/am I the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law to practice keeping her opinions to herself because she doesn't get a say in how my kids eat? I'm 30M, a stay-at-home dad. My wife, 29F, and I have 2 kids together. Our oldest is 4 and our youngest is 18 months. I became the stay-at-home parent when our oldest was born. My brother, 36M, is married to sister-in-law, 39F, and they have 5 kids together between the ages of 4 and 10. Sister-in-law was stunned when I became the stay-at-home parent versus my wife. She has a more traditional view of marriage and family and believes the mom is more important in the home than the dad and that the dad is more important as the provider. Stunned and traditional are her choice of words, just so you're aware. So I always felt like she was more critical of me as a parent. Maybe not in clear ways before now, but her attitude made me feel like she was watching closely to see if I was good enough. The way my wife and I feed our kids is different to how my sister-in-law and my brother feed their kids. Sister-in-law believes in 3 meals a day no matter what the age and nothing more or less. She believes that is the way it has been done for centuries and it works. My wife and I approach it differently. We feed the kids smaller, more frequent meals and snacks. Because of this, I carry around lunch boxes for both my kids that have foods they eat throughout the day if we go anywhere. And at home my wife or I have stuff pre-made and ready to go. This means my kids eat little meals or snacks every 3-ish hours. Not large quantities but smaller and more frequently than my nieces and nephews. Sister-in-law thinks it's insanity, and she has told me I make more work for myself and claims I'm trying to be different because I'm a dad doing the primary caregiving. She told me I should practice doing things differently because in the real world this stuff won't work and preschool and school won't allow for this, which isn't true with the where we have chosen to send our kids to school. But she doesn't want to hear that. I spoke to my brother about his wife's comments on the choices my wife and I made to feed our kids and how it's not helpful or needed. He said he knows, but that it's just how she is. I told him if she keeps it up she will be told to shut up, maybe or maybe not in a nicer way. He just shrugged. I hit this limit on Friday when sister-in-law saw me out with the kids and my dad and father-in-law, the 3 of us grocery shop together some Fridays. She brought it up out of nowhere because she saw the bag I keep the lunch boxes in. She didn't even see them eat anything but needed to say something. She told me I should practice better eating habits and I told her she should practice keeping her opinions to herself because she doesn't get a say in how my kids eat and she doesn't get to open her big mouth about it every time she sees me now. She stormed off outraged and there have been multiple texts from her and my brother since. He's mostly just telling me what she's saying but she is big mad. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. Not the a-hole. It just seems to me that sister-in-law feels personally attacked by a man filling familial responsibilities traditionally done by women, and from the looks of it, doing a good job of it too. It's her problem, and she's trying to make it yours by nitpicking at your every action. OP replies. Thank you. I do get the sense she has some personal issue with a dad doing the day-to-day stuff. I'll never understand why it has to be the mom doing that while the dad has to be the provider. Sure, it works for some. But families come in so many shapes and sizes now and it should be about what works best for each family and what's realistic for each family. Not the a-hole, you need to do what works for you and she's overstepping. You never asked her opinion and she should not have given it. You did, however, open the door for our opinions, so I'm going to squeeze in my 2 cents. Feel free to ignore it. Just make sure you also set them up for success for when they're not with you all of the time. There will be times when they're at a friend's house for a playdate, at school or, someday, at work, where immediate food gratification won't be an option. You may also want to give them the opportunity to become hungry once in a while, if only so that they learn to listen to their body. Always eating before the hunger mechanism is triggered, or allowing it to trigger constantly could be a recipe for disordered eating later in life. I'm not saying you have to upend their whole routine, just work in some times where they have to wait a bit longer every once in a while, and make sure their emotional and physical reactions are healthy. Not the a-hole, you aren't starving your children, so sister-in-law needs to chill out. Now if you really want to go there, just tell her if she's so into traditional norms then perhaps she shouldn't as a woman speak to you that way since you are a man and would like to be shown respect as one, and in fact you are disappointed she is choosing to belittle you since it's not her place. Next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my sister out of my house over a garden? My sister has lived with me since she was a teen mom. She has her own little space for her and her kids. It's my house. I own it. My fiancée Amy moved in, and as my wife Amy can remodel the home as she likes. Amy and I have been together for 4 years. My sister has lived with me for 6. My sister and Amy got in this huge argument over ripping out my grass where her kids play and making a garden that will bloom next spring. Amy had discussed this with me and it was agreed on. Because of our different schedules, we forgot about my sister and telling her about the garden. Amy took a few days off from work to meet with the contractors for the initial digging up the yard. This happened while I was at work. My sister made a scene with the contractors and yelled at Amy. Amy told my sister that it's time for her to move out and get on with her own life. I have been supporting her and her kids for too long. A neighbor got involved and called the police saying Amy wasn't authorized to have the contractors dig up the yard. Amy was asked to leave the property by the police with an overnight bag. This was supervised by the police because I was not reachable at work. My sister told me, "Can you believe this bad woman ripping up the yard like that? I have to leave work and take my hour commute home to deal with my sister." I told her it's time for her to move out and she should have never been involved with the garden. It wasn't her place. It's not her home. My sister was complaining that her boys love to play in that patch of grass and she can't believe I would make changes to her play area without consulting her. Amy is pissed at my sister and the neighbor. The neighbor tried to apologize, but I had to tell the neighbor there is no more coming over because she will be trespassed and she had no business calling the police and making the situation worse. The neighbor explained she didn't know Amy was authorized to make those changes, and I told the neighbor too bad. She's banned from the property even though she's friends with my sister and their kids play together. I told my sister that her and the boys have to go and she needs to be out by the new year or we'll take legal action on her. My sister keeps crying and apologizing, but her actions showed Amy what her married life would be like with my sister lived with us, and I'm putting my wife first and my sister has to go. Edit, Amy and I talked to a lawyer and we are getting the legal paperwork together for my sister's eviction. The lawyer also suggested cameras for the yard and those will be installed next week. I'm sending my sister legal notice of the cameras being installed to cover my butt per the lawyer's request. I do not blame the police for their reaction and neither does Amy. Our destination wedding is upcoming in a few weeks. My sister was not going because of her relationship with our parents. But the cameras will be installed by then with the legal notice. My sister is not to tamper with the cameras or make any cosmetic changes to the property while we are out of town. Edit, my sister has never paid rent or utilities or any other upkeep of the home. We have maid that comes every other week to do basic cleaning because the house gets dirty with the kids. My sister does have a job and both Amy and I do watch the boys several nights a week. Top comments. Not the a-hole. You took your sister in because she was a teen mom and supported her financially, as I understand it, for at least 6 years. You talk about kids, plural, among other things. Did she get pregnant after moving in with you? I also have to wonder, what about the father? Your parents? Regardless of the answers, your sister has behaved very badly. She's a guest in your house, she's being supported, and she even has the nerve to meddle in your future wife's renovations? The one you've been with for 4 years now. Entitled doesn't go far enough in this case. Not to mention the neighbor, nosy and inappropriate. You did well across the board. I only feel sorry for the children, who will suffer the most from the tantrums of these two. Not the a-hole. The neighbor overstepped. You've had too much grace for your sister. Start the eviction notice now officially, or she'll squat. Next story. Am I the a-hole, purposefully excluding a coworker? Throwaway for privacy. I, 28M, work in a team of 7 people. A new girl, Jess, 26F, joined a couple months ago who I don't really care for. I am polite to her while we work, but we don't share any hobbies or overlap in any way. I think she's a bit pretentious, to be honest. She's always talking about her living in London in her early 20s. It's her whole personality, talking about all the expensive things she used to do and how she's so broke as a result. We are all paid very well for what we do and the area we live in. Last night, we had all planned to go for dinner after work to celebrate Chris, 28M, getting married. I knew Jess would be going, but it wasn't my plan to dictate who went, and it's a nice thing to celebrate, so I decided to go anyway. Everyone at work drives apart from me, so Chris offered to drive us both. I will say I am the closest with him. We started around the same time. I was all set to go until Jess said she finds driving on her own nerve-wracking. I have no idea how she manages to commute in every day, and asked if I'd ride with her. I declined and said I wanted to travel with Chris. She insisted, so I told her I want to ride with Chris so we can talk about some wedding things, and got into the car. Chris did offer to also drive her, but she declined. We all got to the restaurant. Jess did not. She had a panic attack mid-journey and decided to Uber home, leaving her car on a random street somewhere. Today at work, she had a go at me and accused me of purposefully excluding her from the group plan. Apparently me not riding with her was a scheme on my end to make her not go because I don't like her. I told her that she excluded herself. Chris offered her a lift and she didn't take it. She also didn't have to abandon her car and ditch. She could have called an Uber for herself to the restaurant. Then I walked off. While I don't like her, I never make that known at work or to any of my coworkers. I ask about her weekend, I offer her a hot drink if I make one, I help her whenever she has questions. I just don't talk to her like I do with everyone else, and I don't have her on my social media. I've known everyone else for 3 years plus now, of course I'm close to them. I was talking to Chris about this post-shift and he told me that it wouldn't have hurt for me to ride with her instead of him when she insisted. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. Not the a-hole. You mentioned everyone else drives, so she had multiple people she could have asked to go with after you said no. She could have gone with Chris. She could have taken an Uber to the restaurant, then had someone drop her back to the car if she didn't want to pay to Uber twice. Her being mad at you because she has a vehicle she is afraid to drive is ridiculous. You are not excluding her at work, you are not being disrespectful or outwardly rude, and that is all that is asked. Opie replies. That is what I don't understand. Chris offered to take her too. Not the a-hole. How do you exclude someone who was invited? She imposed herself on you and you politely declined, twice. She's a nitwit. Not the a-hole. And how did she manage to drive her car there herself? Or anywhere? This is so strange. Opie replies. I don't know, it doesn't make sense really. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to cook a vegetarian Thanksgiving dinner? I feel like I've slipped into the twilight zone with this whole argument, so tell me what's up, internet folks. Background, I, 31F, and my brother Mark, 35M, do not get along. When he was a teen, he saw a documentary on factory farming and decided to become a vegetarian. He got very, very annoying about it quickly, but my dad shut him down when he started trying to get the rest of us to be vegetarian with him. Then he went to college, made a bunch of very strange friends, and went militantly vegan. It's his entire personality. I stopped talking to him after he threw a fit about one of my birthday dinners being at a steakhouse and spammed my messages and SM with pictures of abused cows. My parents have been trying to repair the situation, and for a while, it did seem like Mark was getting better, so I've been letting him back into contact gradually. Then he started dating Pam, who is some kind of vegan influencer. She is apparently moderately popular online, but I have no idea what she does exactly. I don't know if Mark was trying to impress her or what, but last Thanksgiving he insisted that Mom cook at least a vegetarian meal or they wouldn't come on ethical grounds. My mom just wanted everyone to get along on her favorite holiday, so she agreed. It was not a fun meal. This year, my parents have downsized for retirement and my mom is having health problems. I bought their house when they moved, so my mom asked me to host Thanksgiving so it would be like usual. I told everyone in the group chat so Mark and Pam could make travel arrangements, and Pam immediately started gushing about all the vegan replacement recipes she could give me to replace the traditional ones. I said to send me a main dish recipe they like and I would give it a shot, but I'm making the traditional meal otherwise and there should still be plenty of things they can eat. Mark and Pam have been arguing about this with me for days, and then Mark said that if I wouldn't make a meat-free meal they wouldn't come. This upset my mom, who asked me to just make what she made last year to keep the peace, But I told her that Mark needs to get over himself and I'm not coddling him. I'm having turkey on Thanksgiving. My dad privately agrees with me, but Mark threatening to not come is upsetting my mom so much that he's worried it will impact her health. There's a not big, but also not zero chance that these might be some of the last family holidays we have with her. My mom thinks I'm putting turkey over my own family and I'm not so sure anymore. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Whoa, this blew up. So the answers to some common questions. As I said, I've already offered to make sure there is a main dish and sides they can eat. Mark and Pam will not show up if anyone else eats meat at this meal. If any meat is served to anyone, they won't come. Doing multiple meals that day or across multiple days is a no-go. I'm a newly minted critical care physician at an understaffed hospital during a major holiday week and I will have a limited window of time between shifts. I have time for one gathering and I would rather not waste it on a miserable one like last year. Mark and Pam can't host because they live in a van at present. I'm also not willing to have them in my kitchen for hours complaining about the meat in my fridge, the cookware and utensils, and whatever else they can find to complain about. The time it would take for them to come eat, socialize for a couple of hours, and leave is the maximum amount I'm willing to let them be in my home. Although it would admittedly be interesting to watch them try to host a family Thanksgiving out of a van. It is very unlikely that my mom is going to die anytime soon. It's just a non-zero chance. She's understandably worried about it, and is in the pessimism stage of grieving her health. She has a good prognosis and most people with her condition pull through and live for a long time afterward. If it is by some chance the last Thanksgiving, I don't think a repeat of last year's Thanksgiving would do her any good either as everyone left the table unsatisfied and unhappy. Top comments. Not the a-hole, you're not putting turkey over family, Mark is putting tofurkey over family. You've reasonably accommodated enough with a vegan option. Mark doesn't get to hold holidays hostage because of his own dietary choices. That's ridiculous. If Mark wants to pitch a fit, that's him. I feel very sorry for your mom, she's the one suffering most here. But she needs to realize that Mark is the one causing this family divide, and it isn't fair to everyone else to cater to his demands. My aunt was vegan, she brought her own meals to family gatherings. Why can't they do the same? Not the a-hole. Opie replies. They object to participating in anything that involves meat. Won't even go to non-vegetarian restaurants. They're really extreme about it. Not the a-hole. You've even offered to cook them a vegan main dish, which is pretty above and beyond. I think most people would just tell them to bring their own food. Seems like they are taking the position that not only are they vegan, but they are essentially forcing it on everyone else by refusing to come, which is ridiculous. If your mom is getting upset, it's because of Mark's actions, not yours. It's not fair for everyone else to have to comply with his demands. If he actually cares about your mom, he would put her feelings first. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel HB Reddit Stories.